In April 1996, FBI agents approached a cabin in the Montana wilderness. It had no electricity, no running water. It was 10 feet wide and 12 feet long. They had been looking for the man inside for 18 years. Inside, they found a cot, a wood stove, stacks of handwritten manuscripts, and the components of a bomb. The man they pulled out of that cabin was thin, hollow-eyed, and barely recognizable as human. His name was Ted Kaczynski, and 30 years earlier, he had been accepted to Harvard at the age of 16. This is the same man. How does a 16-year-old with one of the highest IQs ever recorded end up in a one-room cabin, hunted for 18 years? Stay with me. Ted Kaczynski grew up in Evergreen Park, Illinois, a quiet suburb of Chicago. His IQ tested at 167. By the time most children were starting high school, Ted had already skipped 2 grades. He arrived at Harvard at 16 years old. He had never been to a party. He had almost no close friends. He was, by every measure, still a child. Harvard in the late 1950s was not built for 16-year-olds. His dorm mates were 3 and 4 years older. He ate alone. He studied alone. He was brilliant in a place that had no patience for loneliness. His mathematics professors recognized his ability immediately. He solved problems that graduate students could not. He was the kind of mind that appeared once in a generation. Harvard had seen prodigies before. What Harvard had not considered was what it was about to do to this one. Ted was still 17, still the boy in that photograph. In 1959, a Harvard psychologist named Henry Murray began recruiting undergraduate volunteers for a study. Murray was not an ordinary academic. During World War II, he had worked for the OSS, the forerunner of the CIA, developing psychological assessment tools for the American government. His research had documented connections to programs that would later become known under a single name, MKUltra. Murray's Harvard study told its 22 undergraduate volunteers it was a debate exercise, a study of intellectual stress. Students were asked to write down their deepest personal beliefs, their most cherished values, the things that defined who they were. Ted Kaczynski was 17 years old when he agreed. He would not stop for 3 years. What happened in that room was not a debate. Each student was wired to electrodes measuring heart rate and skin response. Across the table sat a trained lawyer, selected specifically for the ability to humiliate. The lawyer had read everything the student had written, every belief, every vulnerability. And then, systematically, methodically, he attacked them, not their arguments, them. The sessions were filmed. Afterward, each student was brought back and forced to watch footage of their own breakdown, their own face in distress, their own voice cracking, replayed on screen, while still connected to the electrodes. This happened repeatedly, for 3 years. In Murray's research notes, Ted Kaczynski's codename was Lawful. Three years of engineered humiliation, beginning at 17. Ask yourself, what would that do to you? Nobody knows with certainty what those 3 years did to him. Murray's full findings were never published. The records were sealed. What we know is what came after. He graduated Harvard, earned a PhD in mathematics from the University of Michigan, solving a dissertation problem his own advisor called exceptionally difficult. He was offered a faculty position at UC Berkeley. He was 25 years old. He was, on paper, exactly what the system said it was building. He lasted 2 years, walked out of his office in 1969, and disappeared. Lincoln, Montana, population 1,000. The land was bought with money borrowed from his brother, David. He built the cabin with his own hands. He grew food. He trapped animals. He read. He wrote. And slowly, over years of solitude, something that had been cracked at Harvard began to break completely. He began to see the world not as a place of possibility, but as a machine. A system built not to free human beings, but to control them. And the people running it were not evil. They were worse than evil. They were inevitable. The system did not need villains. It ran on its own logic. And that logic, he believed, was consuming everything that made human life worth living. He began writing, Pages, then hundreds of pages, then thousands. A document he believed would force the world to reckon with what it had become. He called it Industrial Society and its future. The FBI would call it the Manifesto. But before the Manifesto, there were the bombs. Between 1978 and 1995, Ted Kaczynski mailed or personally delivered 16 bombs. 3 people were killed, 23 were injured. His targets were not random. He targeted people he believed stood at the front line of what he was fighting. Academics in computer science and engineering, executives at technology corporations, researchers whose work he believed was accelerating the system he had dedicated his life to stopping. He was not trying to maximize casualties. He was sending a message. The FBI called him UNABOM. They assigned 150 agents to the case. It became one of the longest and most expensive investigations in American history. For 17 years, they could not find him. No DNA, no matching fingerprints, no witnesses, a sketch, a description, and a bomber who was meticulous, patient, and completely invisible. In 1995, Kaczynski contacted the New York Times and the Washington Post. His demand: publish the manifesto in full, all 35,000 words, and he would stop. The FBI advised compliance. On the 19th of September 1995, the Washington Post published Industrial Society and Its Future as a special supplement, read by millions. He believed the argument was so clear, so undeniable, that the world would have to reckon with it. He had been building this argument for 20 years. Here is what he argued. Kaczynski believed human beings have a biological need to pursue real goals through real effort, not simulated goals. Not convenient goals, real ones, where failure is possible, where the body and mind are genuinely tested, where the outcome is uncertain. He called this the power process. When technology removes that struggle, when everything becomes instant and frictionless, people do not become happier, they become empty. They fill the void with what he called surrogate activities, artificial substitutes for real purpose. Look at the most addictive products built in the last 20 years. Infinite feeds designed never to end. Algorithms that remove the need to choose. Platforms that measure your worth in numbers that reset every day. Kaczynski did not predict these specifically. He predicted the logic that would create them. Remove friction, increase dependency. His second argument was about freedom. Every advancement in technology requires a larger system to manage it. Every larger system requires more compliance from the individual, more rules, more surveillance, more behavioral conformity. Not because anyone chose that outcome, because the system demands it. The more efficient society becomes, the less freedom the individual retains. He argued this was not a side effect of progress, it was the destination. He was a terrorist. He murdered people. So why does what he wrote keep coming true? And he saw this coming. On the 19th of September, 1995, the same day the Washington Post published the manifesto, a man named David Kaczynski sat down and began to read. David was Ted's younger brother. They had grown up together in Evergreen Park, camped together, argued about ideas for years. David knew how Ted thought. He knew how Ted wrote. He knew the exact texture of his brother's mind. As David read, all 35,000 words, something happened he had not expected. He recognized it. Not just the ideas, the specific phrases, the exact way certain arguments turned. He had read these thoughts before, in letters from his brother, in conversations over decades. The manifesto did not read like the work of a stranger. It read like a letter from Ted. David did not act immediately. He spent months trying to disprove what he already knew. He hired a private linguist to compare the manifesto against Ted's known writing. The linguist confirmed it. He consulted his wife. He consulted a lawyer. He consulted his own conscience. In February 1996, David Kaczynski contacted the FBI. He made one request, that if his brother was arrested, they would not seek the death penalty. The FBI agreed. David has said since that the decision cost him everything: his relationship with his brother, his sense of himself, years of his life. He knew it was the right thing to do. He also knew he would never fully recover from doing it. On the 3rd of April, 1996, FBI agents approached a small wooden cabin in Lincoln, Montana. Ted Kaczynski was inside. He did not resist. The most wanted domestic terrorist in American history had been found not by 18 years of federal investigation, but by his brother reading a newspaper. Inside that cabin, in an area not much larger than a parking space, agents found 40,000 handwritten journal pages, 10 three-ring binders cataloging every bomb he had built, a live bomb ready to mail, and the original, handwritten manuscript of the manifesto. Everything he had built, everything he believed, in a box, in the Montana woods, alone. This is where it ended. Ted Kaczynski pleaded guilty in 1998. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He died in his prison cell on the 10th of June, 2023. He was 80 years old. The technologies he warned about are now inside every pocket, every classroom, every bedroom on Earth. The systems of control he described have not slowed. They have accelerated. The surrogate activities he predicted have become the primary activities of billions of people. He killed people. He was a terrorist. He was wrong to do what he did. But here is the question nobody wants to answer. Was he right about the modern world? If you think he was right, comment one word: inevitable. If he was wrong, tell me why. Leave a like if this made you think, and subscribe for one story like this every week.